service. If I like, I order twice. Hibachi, got the gravy on the rice. Rolling in Mexico.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome into another edition of the Steelers Q&A. My name is Jeremy Betts, and I am joined by my good buddy Andrew Wilbar for this episode. Andrew, I had a debt to pay from a bet made earlier in the year, and this is the best I could do. But welcome into the show. It's great to have you and all that good stuff. But I kind of feel dirty right now. I just don't know what to do. Just having this color scheme on currently, but your Michigan Wolverines did in fact take down the Ohio State Buckeyes in the game this season, and the bet was that whoever lost would wear the colors of the team that won for a podcast. And so here I am. How you doing?
Well, if you remember, the bet came from the DDP podcast with the Chase Brown Zach Moss battle. That was where it originated. So
You're
yes,
right.
Michigan did win, but the bet was made, or the wager was made, that if Chase Brown scored more fantasy points than Zach Moss, of course, Zach Moss ended with a season-ending injury, then you would have to wear maize and blue, and if it was the opposite way around, I'd have to wear scarlet and gray. So
Yes.
I appreciate your effort. It's close. It's close enough. I'll accept it. I think we need to revisit this in the show for those who, come into the show a little bit later on. But if
they missed it now, it's over. They missed out. So this has got to come off at some point. It's a little warm. It's scarf situation here, but okay, this is a terrible towel. So Steeler fans, that's what that is. But yeah, and you're right, Andrew. I don't know why my brain totally skipped on the whole Zach Moss Chase Brown thing. I don't remember making a bet like that. Anyway, so this whole thing is a mess. So Afton asks, no maize and blue Tervis. No, that's not entering my house in any way, shape, or form, because the wife doesn't. She's an Ohio State Buckeye. She's a bigger Buckeyes fan than I am. So maize and blue, anything just doesn't work. We won't even wear yellow and blue together. As just an outfit. So Andrew, it does feel weird, but rivalries and predictions, all these things, they happen, and you lose sometimes. And I lost. I thought for sure Zach Moss would have a really good season this year as the Bengals starting running back. You were absolutely correct about Chase Brown, and probably he's done better than even you were expecting with having to share the backfield. When it became his backfield, he really took it by the reins and has been pretty epic. So kudos to you. Congratulations on a prediction well done. How you feeling this week? We've got a big Steelers game, a big Steelers rivalry that hasn't been much of a rivalry recently. 8 of the last 9 going the Steelers' way, but the games are still tough, right? I think that's the difference between when people say, well, Steelers-Browns wasn't a rivalry under Ben Roethlisberger. That's because the Steelers were boat racing the Browns on every time. These games are one-score games every time. So the rivalry to me is still intact. The team that's been winning, though, has been the Steelers, and hopefully they continue that way. But how are you feeling about this matchup, knowing what we know about the injury report and what is at stake this week for Pittsburgh and Baltimore?
Well, I'd feel a whole lot better if George Pickens was going to be playing. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. Yeah. So we said on the fix this week that came out earlier today, I did pick the Ravens to win this matchup, but I definitely think that the Steelers should have the mindset going into this game that we are the bigger team in this matchup. Lamar Jackson still has not figured out how to beat us. The defense has enough star power to where you don't need a lot from the offense. You just need a little bit. And I think this offense is still capable of giving that little bit. It's going to be more difficult without Pickens because it makes the Steelers much more one-dimensional. But I do think that the Steelers still have the capability to win this game again. My concern is that with Baltimore, you're seeing a much more motivated Baltimore team here. They know what is on the line, and they know that they've been dominated. The media has finally started talking about how much Baltimore has been dominated in this rivalry. I think they're tired of hearing it. And at some point in time, they're due to come away with a win. This is in Baltimore. The Steelers are coming off a physical game against Philly. The Steelers have to play Kansas City in 4 days. That's much more difficult than having to go and play Houston or someone like that, like Baltimore. So I don't love this matchup. I don't think it's a deal breaker if the Steelers can't win, because like we were talking about even at the end of the show on the fix, in the event where maybe the Chargers and Broncos were to swap spots in the playoffs, you could potentially, and if you don't draw Denver, you could be drawing the Chargers at home. Wouldn't be necessarily an easy matchup. The Chargers are playing really well. And if you lose this game, you could be the 5 seed playing Houston, which I think is a game the Steelers should be able to win, even though it's on the road. I know you want that home playoff game. I know you want to win the division, but I don't think it's the end of the world if the Steelers don't win it. I do have concerns about the Steelers' capability of pulling this off a little bit short-handed on the offensive side of the ball, though.
Yeah, definitely not end of the world if you lose, but you want that home playoff game. If you're Pittsburgh, you want somebody coming to you, rookie quarterback in Denver, in Bo Nix in Denver, a Chargers team that has been giving up a little bit more on defense in recent weeks. I mean, heck, even a Baltimore team that you'll have beaten twice, right? That wouldn't be something that you'd be too scared of if you're Pittsburgh getting to play them at home. So that is, the road ahead is going to be fun. But with this game, and Jamie Carlo echoes kind of our sentiment about this as well, going to be tough to win without Pickens. Absolutely. Not denying that. But it was going to be tough to win with Kenny Pickett at quarterback last year. It was going to be tough to win with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. Tough to win when Ben Roethlisberger could barely move. And still the Steelers were able to pull off wins in those games. So to me, you're missing Pickens, yes. But the pieces that make this rivalry, that have made it lean Steelers, are still here. And it's Mike Tomlin. It's this defense. It's the schematic. It's how they play ball, the way that the Steelers approach this game. It's been something that Baltimore cannot break away from. And I think that that's going to continue, at least to the point where this is a good, close game. I'm not saying the Steelers are guaranteed to win, but I feel pretty good about it. The Steelers have never lost under Mike Tomlin in a game where they are guaranteed to win the division if they win in week 13 or after. So they have never lost in that situation. They are 6-1 against a division rival when the division is on the line under Mike Tomlin. And 3 of those are games against the Ravens, and they're 3-0 in those games. So, and then also you consider that the Steelers have won 8 of 9. Everything goes the Steelers' way. I wrote an article about this on the SteelCurtainNetwork.com. So check that out. And yes, it's going to be difficult to win without Pickens, but I still think that the necessary pieces, TJ Watt's going to play in this game. Mike Tomlin knows how to coach it up. Those are the X factors for the Steelers when it comes to beating the Ravens.
I agree with that. In TJ Watt, especially, it's the same thing we've been talking about several times. You were the first one to mention it. What are the Steelers going to do to get TJ Watt loose? We haven't seen that in some time. In Baltimore's offensive line, for the longest time, we thought they were going to be a really, really strong unit. They're still good, but primarily as a run blocking unit. If the Steelers can create penetration from the interior, that could potentially open up something on the outside for a Watt or Highsmith to be able to get free on Lamar Jackson. But the Steelers have really dominated this by forcing Lamar Jackson to stay in the pocket, keeping a linebacker on spy, and getting pressure from the exterior and making it difficult for him to just take off and run. And it limits Lamar in this. He still struggles against zone defenses when you get pressure. But you have to get pressure on him for it to work for any zone defense. So that's going to be the key as always. But the Steelers definitely have the power up front with a Watt, with a Hayward, with a Highsmith to be able to do it.
Having their whole complement of edge defenders is huge. They didn't have Alex Highsmith last time the teams played, and Steelers still win. Watt's probably going to be hobbled at times in this game. Not necessarily that he's going to be limping on the field or anything like that, but I do think that he's going to play fewer snaps, and that the Steelers are going to want to rotate those guys in a little bit more to keep Watt fresh on the money downs in big time situations late in the game. That's all going to be important, but I am confident that the Steelers defense can put them in a position to win this game. I mentioned it with Jeff Hartman on the Let's Ride podcast that's going to run tomorrow morning, Friday morning, that I think that the Steelers, or excuse me, I think that the Ravens are going to have to do something different, like something that they've never done before in this matchup in order to throw Pittsburgh off. And I don't know if they can do that with a quarterback like Lamar, who wants to win, has to win a certain way, right? It's not like you're going to tell Lamar, okay, this is an abandon the running game. We're just going to sit back and run 5 routes every play and pick apart the secondary. Lamar is going to get destroyed in the pocket if he tries to do that. It's not a game where they could just say, okay, we're going to just run read option all game long. The Steelers edge defenders are too good to stop that, right? Or too good to keep that from breaking the game open. So I don't know what the Ravens can do to break this one open, but they've got to do something different. They've got to change up how they approach this game, and the pressure's all on them because the Steelers have the number and they win the games. So the Ravens have all the pressure. The Steelers, despite having a chance to win the division, if they win this game, I feel like there's more pressure on Baltimore than on Pittsburgh at this point in this game. What say you, though, about that?
I agree with everything you're saying. One thing I wanted to add as it pertains to the Ravens offense, we saw this past week how Kenneth Gainwell ate the Steelers apart. And the Steelers did a pretty good job overall containing Saquon Barkley. You're getting the next best running back in the league right now in Derrick Henry this week. And I would not be shocked at all. The Ravens are looking at the tape of that game and saying, how can we find a way to get Justice Hill? Or if Keaton Mitchell, for some reason, is active, I know he's been inactive, he's still recovering back from his injury, getting one of their other running backs, their scat backs, there's guys who have some speed and space. How can we exploit them? How can we get them on a linebacker out of the backfield and create that mismatch? How can we get one of these guys on the Landon Roberts one-on-one in coverage? How can we create those mismatches? I think that may be the biggest X factor. Can Lamar deliver even accurate throws? We've seen time and time again, even the simplest dump passes, Lamar sometimes struggles with once he gets rattled under pressure against the Steelers defense. He struggles to complete even the simplest passes. That's going to be big for him because we saw the Steelers expose themselves a little bit in terms of they have a flaw in the defense, and that's scatbacks out of the backfield. They struggle to tackle in open space, the defense does, and they struggle with speed in the open field as well. So this is an opportunity for a guy like Justice Hill to have a big game. He's burned the Steelers before. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but it's definitely the sign the Steelers should be preparing for in this matchup. It's not just Derrick Henry you have to worry about.
Yeah, and the Ravens it could be without 3 of their top 4 receivers in this game too. You're talking about Rashad Bateman is highly questionable for this game. Deontay Johnson's definitely not playing, and then Nelson Aguilar, who's had some success against the Steelers in this rivalry, he's very questionable to play as well. So it could be the Ravens running backs show, and maybe the screen game is the way that you change things up and try to get in behind this pass rush and get your speedy backs in against these linebackers and try to exploit them that way, exploit a rookie in Peyton Wilson. We'll see. I think the Steelers have a good shot in this game. I think the Ravens have a good shot in this game, contrary to the recent win streak for Pittsburgh. Baltimore's been in every one of these games. They probably should have won a couple of them in that time frame. I think of the one where Mark Andrews is wide open in the flat on a 2-point conversion try, and Lamar Jackson just misses him because TJ is in his face. Or, there was a chance even in this game this year that the Ravens could have tied it up with a 2-point conversion, but the play just was a total botch from the snap. So I think that the Ravens should feel confident that they'll be in this game late. Can they close it out against Pittsburgh? They haven't been able to do so against teams like the Steelers, the Chiefs, their nemesis teams. They haven't been able to get over the hump on those. So let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to look at some more of the comments and questions in the chat and keep talking this matchup because it is all important. Steelers have a chance to win the division with this. So if you're watching live, obviously we're not going anywhere. Stick around. If you are tuning in on audio, after these ads, this short break, we will be right back here on the Steelers Q&A. And welcome back to the Steelers Q&A. It is a Thursday night. If you're catching this live, you're doing so on YouTube, Facebook, or X. If you are listening to this on audio, wherever you get your podcasts, come check us out live. Hop in the chat. We love to talk with the listeners. That's what this show is about, is to answer questions and get to interact with the listener, with the fans like ourselves of the Pittsburgh Steelers. For those of you wondering, if you're maybe just joining now, wondering why I'm draped with a terrible towel and wearing a blue shirt, Andrew did win our friendly wager of who was going to be the better fantasy running back in 2024, Chase Brown or Zach Moss. Zach Moss was my pick. Zach Moss obviously on injured reserve, no longer playing. Andrew wins this one by default. Andrew, I'm not going to give you a full win here, but I am going to wear the maize and blue, I guess, for this episode. And I don't know, does it look good on me, or is it not my color? I feel like it's not my color at all.
Oh, it looks wonderful on you. I'm telling you what, if you were to walk down downtown Ann Arbor, yeah. I'm telling you what, no one would ever even realize that your college teams are corrupted, and they wouldn't think anything of it. You would fit right in, and it would be all fine and dandy. I did want to say though, as it pertains to the Brown Moss thing, if Moss was healthy, do you think that there's any chance with the way Chase Brown is playing that he still would have won?
No, I don't. I don't. So I guess I'll give you a full win here. It's true. So I guess what you're saying is, though, the maize and blue on me just makes me more legendary than I already am.
Absolutely. 100%. This is the insanely legendary Jeremy Betts. This is like a totally another level that we have never seen of legendary Jeremy Betts.
Well, I appreciate that, I guess. I don't know what to think, really, about this whole situation. So I'm just going to ride with it for the rest of the episode and then go take a nice extra hot shower after this one is over. All right, let's jump into some of the questions for this game here between the Steelers and the Ravens. Thank you for everybody who's in the chat. If we've got 30 people watching live, we've only got like 3 people in the chat. So if you're watching live, get a question in there, get in this chat, and let's talk it up. Afton Ford asked, Ravens are giving up 6.5 points. Yeah, it's a 6.5 points spread here for the Ravens and Steelers. The Ravens giving the Steelers 6.5 points at home. That to me is an incredible line, considering how close these games have been and how many that the Steelers have taken. What does Vegas know that we don't know? I have no idea, but what do you think about that number, Andrew? It's pretty easy. If you were a betting person, you've probably taken the Steelers on that line.
Yeah. When was the last time that this game was decided by more than 6 points? It's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
I do not understand that line at all. And you think of just the history of the rivalry, how the game is played. It's always won in the trenches. It's a low-scoring game, regardless of who wins. I don't see how there's anything that would make this different. Both teams are down receivers. This is only going to make it an even more run-heavy game. So I really don't understand what Vegas is thinking here. Maybe just right under that 7. I don't see either team, regardless of who wins. I am picking Baltimore this week, unfortunately, but I don't see them winning by 6. I don't see either team winning by 6. I think this game comes down to 2, 3, maybe 4 points, like it does every single time over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree with that take. And it's a astounding number, honestly. In my opinion, Steelers fans should be thanking their lucky stars if they want to bet this matchup in that regard. Let's see here. So I want to bring up this part of the conversation here. Afton says TJ seems to do best when he moves around. And then Jamie Carlos says, I love when they move Watt around, but I don't think the Steelers do. And we've talked about this, Andrew. This has been a big talking point for us all season. Move him around, give him some different looks. Are the Steelers going to be forced to in this situation where it's the outside leg, the outside ankle for TJ if he's coming off that right side of the offense like he typically does? Does it force the Steelers' hand to move him over if there's a bunch of discomfort in that ankle heading into this game?
Yeah, I'm not sure why the Steelers refuse to move him around across the formation. But one thing that I think stands out to me more than anything is that when the Steelers have allowed Watt to come in on stunts, and this isn't just this year, it's throughout his career. The few options and the few opportunities where Watt's been able to come in on a stunt, he starts on the outside and then comes back to the inside. The Steelers have had a lot of success running that. And I understand Lamar Jackson's not the greatest pocket passer, but when you're talking just going against a normal pocket passer, even to a guy like an Allen or a Mahomes, if the Steelers have to play one of them in the playoffs, bringing Watt in on stunts, that makes it an even greater opportunity for him to swat down a pass. When you have a quarterback that's in the middle of the pocket and likes to stay in there and doesn't always resort to just using his legs, maybe this game's a little bit different, but it's not like TJ Watt has regressed. He is still the same player he's always been. He's just as good as he's always been. But there's only so much you can do when teams are finally giving him the respect he deserves by putting two guys, sometimes even three guys in him. You chipping him with a tight end. You still got two linemen focused on him. There's only so much you can do. He's as close to Superman as you can get as a defensive player, but he's still not Superman. Yeah. You can't expect more than what he's giving right now. And I just think the Steelers are being a little bit unfair to him. I know he's a selfless guy. He's a team first guy. He's going to do whatever it takes to put the team in best position. But I think getting TJ Watt loose just creates that fear factor a little bit more. People do fear him just by the way they're giving him attention. But the fear factor goes to another level when he actually gets home for a sack and he's in the back of that quarterback's mind every single down.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a, I don't know. When you're talking about this team and the way they're going to play this game, you know, when we come back around to questions here in the chat, you know, it was a low-scoring game this last time. You had only field goals by the Steelers. There were some big turnovers, big plays. So Vinny Aguakun asked here, who do you think will make the big takeaway Saturday? And then Afton kind of backs up on that. Will Minka ever get another pick? How long is his dry spell? Andrew, if you had to pick one impact player here, and we just talked about TJ Watt from that perspective, is he the guy you're looking to make the big play in this game, or could it be somebody else that turns the tide with a big time takeaway in this matchup?
I'm not anticipating too much action through the air because I really do expect both teams to try to keep this on the ground. But I think I think you're looking at someone, maybe you can stop someone in the backfield, maybe a one stop even. Something as simple as that. A guy that I think is going to have to step up and maybe not even for sake of takeaway, but if you're talking about just turnover and just turnover on downs, if Baltimore's in those fourth and short situations, I expect them to be aggressive in this game. A guy like Keanu Benton, I believe that's not the prototype answer here, but I'm going to go with a guy like Keanu Benton. He's going to have an opportunity to, whether it be maybe causing a forced fumble, that's always possible. Could be a strip sack, could be whatever. But I think the biggest opportunity for him is in those fourth and short situations. If he can stone Derrick Henry in the backfield, that is just as big, if not a bigger takeaway than anything on this defense. I really don't think Baltimore is going to test the Steelers in the secondary. They may try to test Porter, try to draw a couple flags, but the Steelers have a clear advantage on their receivers. On the outside, you could even say in the slot, whoever they end up putting in the slot, unless they try to pick on Beanie Bishop, Cameron Sutton, whoever ends up being in the slot, the Steelers have a solid secondary overall, and I don't think they're getting enough credit for what they do. They've just gotten so much bad attention because of the penalties, some of which I don't think were really qualified of being penalties, but I'll leave it at that. I do think, though, that it's going to come down to a potential turnover in the run game. Could be a forced fumble. I think the greatest opportunity for a turnover, though, in this game is a turnover on downs in a key fourth and short situation in a one-score game where Baltimore knows that they have to take their chance. And a guy like Keanu Benton in the middle of that defensive line is going to have a chance to be the one to create that turnover. Yeah. I'm looking at him as the impactful player on defense.
That's awesome. I love that. He just had a pick in their most recent game. So, or excuse me, not against the Eagles. It was against the Browns where he took the ball away in the middle of the field there. So I like this from Afton. I think Herbig punches one out. That's a great prediction there. I'm looking at Alex Highsmith to have a big game here, to come in and do what he does. Force a turnover, big sack, something like that. I agree with you, Andrew. The on down. they love to attack in those weighty moments and be aggressive. So the Steelers' ability to get off the field in those situations is going to be interesting. So like it. The Minka dry spell, I want to come back to this. His dry spell is since the final week of 2022. He has not forced a turnover of any kind since the final week of 2022 when he had his last interception. That's pretty insane. It's been 2 years, Andrew, for Minka since he's had a takeaway. Is this the week for that? I don't know. Maybe Lamar forces one in there, but with Deshaun Elliott not playing in this game, Minka's going to be around the box a lot more. If he does force a turnover, I would say maybe it's more likely that he gets a fumble punched out than a pick in this one.
Yeah, as it pertains to Minka, I think that it's threefold. I think part of it is respect of other teams. They're not going to just bait him and dare him. You are not going to break in front of this ball. That he has developed a respect, and even though he doesn't have any turnovers, people know what he is capable of. And I think part of it is respect. I do think part of it is regression as well. He's not as quick to react as he once was. He's still a very good safety. I'm not saying the Steelers need to go out and replace him next offseason, anything like that. But he's not as quick to react as what he was. He just simply wasn't. His reactionary speed has definitely dropped a bit. And then I think the key to it is just relaxation. I'll go with the 3 R's there. Relaxation is what it needs to be. I do think he is pressing a little bit too hard. He's pressing too hard. He's trying to come away with the big play, and in the process, well, he has made some good plays for this team in the run game. There have been a couple missed tackles even by Minka Fitzpatrick in recent weeks. And I think part of that is he's coming downhill so hard with the intent of creating that splash play. He's starting to forsake the simple just a tiny bit. And I'm not concerned about Minka, anything like that. I don't think he's a liability to this defense. But I've predicted him to get a pick a couple times this year, and it's never come true. I'm going to be surprised when it happens. I'm going to be happy when it happens.
Yeah.
And I know he's still capable of it. But just relax, Minka. It will come at some point in time. Just do your job. Keep putting the Steelers in the best position to win in that secondary and being that veteran leader that this secondary really does need.
Yes, and I'll be honest, if he does get the next time he does get a turnover, it'll be a jump out of my seat moment because I'm rooting for this guy to get one. Much like I was Deontay Johnson to get his touchdown after that year where he did not score a single touchdown as the team's number one targeted receiver. So very interesting. We've talked about this a lot, Andrew, and this question from Vinny. Who do you guys want to play the most in the playoffs? I want Denver, but they look way better offensively since week 2. Bo Nix is for real. We're watching this game right now, and Bo Nix is playing really, really good. It's 21-10 Broncos as we approach the half. Bo Nix has 2 touchdown passes. They're playing really well. But I still kind of agree with Vinny. You want the rookie quarterback if you're Pittsburgh. But, I guess for those who may not have heard our conversation about this on the fix, where are you going as far as your favorite matchup? I know you mentioned that Houston, potentially going to Houston if you end up a wild card team. You don't hate that either if you're Pittsburgh, probably.
I don't. I would still choose Denver because the rookie quarterback having to come to Pittsburgh. I mean, that's the only way that's going to happen. They're playing in Pittsburgh, this game in Pittsburgh. I will take the Steelers all day against that. Steelers always do good against rookie quarterbacks. I know you've already played them once, but you have the Russell Wilson motivation factor in there. You got so much on this game. I'm not saying Denver's incapable of pulling off an upset in that matchup, but I would still take the Steelers. I would choose them number 1, and then Houston would be right after that. Chargers are a team. I know that they're struggling tonight. Their defense, like you mentioned earlier in the show, they're starting to struggle a bit. They just don't have enough talent, and especially in the back end. But I still think that with a Jim Harbaugh-led team in the playoffs, with a team that can run the football and has a quarterback that's proven he can come away with some big-time throws. He has the capability, he has the talent to be able to play with any of these quarterbacks, play with any of these teams in the playoffs. It still scares me a little bit more than it would, say, a rookie quarterback like Bo Nix. So out of all the teams, I would still choose Denver. That would be the team I would want to face. And it's looking more and more likely that if Denver does hold on to win tonight, and if the Steelers win on Saturday, is looking more and more likely that will be the matchup.
It really is. It's starting to kind of zone in on that one there. I'm going to rank them this way. I would rather play Denver than the Chargers, and that's close for me. Then I'll just stick with the wild card teams. Then Baltimore, if the Steelers win the division. If they don't win the division, I do not want to go to Buffalo right away. So you better win one of these games at least down the stretch here, Pittsburgh, if you don't want to go to Buffalo or go to Kansas City or something like that. I want to go to Houston if I do not win the division. So that would be my ranking of it there. So, all right, good stuff. Great questions. Oh, one more from Afton. Will we get in the end zone in this game? Steelers won with 6 field goals the last time these two teams met. Will the Steelers get in the end zone in this game? I'm going to say yes. It's very rare that you don't in an NFL game, especially when you're talking about a Steelers team that, knows this Ravens squad so well. So I'm going to say yes, they get in the end zone at least once this week. What say you?
I think we do too. I think we could see a Najee touchdown, and
okay.
I'm not going to go any further than that, but I do think that Pat Freiermuth has an opportunity to go off this game too. If there's an opportunity where Roquan Smith is not on Pat Freiermuth's got a chance to he has an opportunity to have a big game if the Steelers target him over the middle of the field. I wouldn't trust the wide receivers in this game.
Yep, I agree with that. So if I had to pick over under 1.5 touchdowns for the Steelers offense in this game, I don't know. I might just pick the one, but I would hope for more than that. Obviously, Jeff Hartman seems to think this might be a little higher scoring affair than others. I don't know. We'll see. I still think that this is going to be a hard fought defensive battle. It's going to be a close game. The better special teams unit will absolutely play a role in who wins. So going to be a fun one. Thank you all for tuning in. Andrew, thank you for hopping on with me. Late notice on this one tonight, but we got her done. And, Christmas just around the corner. We hope all of you in the chat have a Merry Christmas. You won't hear this show again until after Christmas. So Merry Christmas to all of you. Have a great holiday weekend, and then week ahead. Enjoy the Steelers couple games in this stretch as well. Andrew, any final thoughts before we head out?
No, wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Happy you were able to pay off the dues, Jeremy, tonight. And
it's been hanging over my head. I'm done with it.
We'll come up with something new, maybe as it pertains to NFL draft, and we'll maybe do something like that over the summer. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Sounds good, man. As always, it's fun to talk with you, and it's always fun to talk to you as well, the listeners. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next time on the Steelers Q&A. Until then, fuck it.